Welcome back. Continuing our discussion on the communicatio idiomatum and the confusions of Father Stephen DeYoung specifically. I have cocked up here Father Stephen DeYoung. We're going to be addressing something he says in this video. But so far, we've gone over how he has claimed that the flesh of Christ is infinite and how the natures communicate properties to each other. Or rather, he says the divine nature communicates its properties to the human nature. And how these are explicitly denied by St. John of Damascus in Exact Exposition 3.4. The natures do not communicate properties to each other. The human nature does not become uncreated or infinite. How saying that the flesh is infinite was an argument of the iconoclasts, and that St. Theodore says, no, the flesh remains circumscribed even after the resurrection. This is something that Father Stephen has denied. And how in Opusculum 8, St. Maximus Confessor says that the properties, in order to preserve the natures, we have to preserve the properties. And so the properties of the natures are not absolved, right? They're not impaired, right? So human nature does not lose its property finite; it remains finite. But here, there's a very interesting question that's being asked in this video by Stilgar74. In understanding the energies of God in the context of the incarnate Son, are all his actions understood as uncreated because the Son is fully divine? Don't want to wrongly divide the two natures. Thank you. This is an interesting question. I'm going to play the clip of Father Stephen's response, and then we can go and see what the saints actually say. Let me grab the question here.
That's awesome. Oh, that's hilarious. Stilgar, in understanding the energies of God, the context of the incarnate Son, are all his actions understood as uncreated because the Son is fully divine? Don't want to wrongly divide the two natures. Thank you.
No.
Okay, very clearly, he says no. Not all of his actions are uncreated. Okay, let's see how he explains this.
There you go.
We're not Maronites. Sixth Ecumenical Council, Christ has two energies. It's a human energy and a divine energy. Having a human nature gives you a human energy. So there are things that Christ does, like those things in which he accepts the blameless passions, like sleeping, right, because he is tired, or eating because he is hungry, right, that are his human energy. And then there are other things he does, like forgive sins, right, that are divine energies.
Did we hear that? So he correctly states, this is a true premise, Christ has two energies. Absolutely true. But then he falsely concludes, or as I will show you from the saints, that therefore, because he has two energies, there are some things he does that are only human, and there are some things he does that are only divine. This is his point. So not all of his actions are divine because some of them are only human. Okay, and then Alex is going to jump in because he's just a wealth of ignorance as well.
Yeah, I like to say, like, walking, human energy. Walking on water, divine energy.
Big comparison. The truth in
Okay, so let's go see what the saints actually said, because this is actually extremely important, and I find that this is more confused than just outside this group. Let's bring up letter 4 of St Dionysios to Gaius. Now, this is a kind of a lengthy letter, but let's skip down to the bottom part. Through which he who looks with a divine vision will know beyond mind even the things affirmed respecting the love toward man of the Lord Jesus Christ, things which possess a force of superlative negation. For, even to speak summarily, he was not man, not as not being man, but as being from men was beyond men, and was above man, having truly been born man, and for the rest, not having done things divine as God, nor things human as man, but exercising for us a certain new God incarnate energy of God having become man. The word there for God incarnate is theandric. He exercises a new theandric energy. It doesn't mean that there's a single energy. What is he saying? He says, St. Dionysius says, no, God doesn't do divine things and then do human things in separation, but exercising a new theandric energy. Okay? St. Maximus, which I have right below, makes this very clear. It's Ambigua 5. And in a manner beyond man, he truly became man. This is on the letter to Gaius. Since he maintained that the modes of existence, which are above nature, along with the principles of being, which are according to nature, united and unimpaired. Again, we went over this in the last video. The properties are unimpaired, the natures are unimpaired, they remain what they are. The conjunction of these was beyond what is possible, for he from whom nothing is impossible became their true union, and was the hypostasis in neither of them exclusively, so he's not only divine, he's also human, but in all that he did, in no way acting through one of the natures in separation from the other. And we read that again. But he from whom nothing is impossible became their true union, and was the hypostasis in neither of them exclusively, in no way acting through one of the natures in separation from the other. But in all things he did, he confirmed the presence of the one through the other, since he is truly both. He does not do human actions over here and divine actions over there. Every act he does is theandric. Every act he does is created, and it is uncreated. Let's go on. 518 really settles this. As God, he was the motivating principle of his own humanity, and as man, he was a revelatory principle of his own divinity. This is the communicatio idiomatum. Do you see it at play? Right? The properties of the nature apply to the person, right? And so his actions, his human actions, are divine because he's the one acting, and his divine actions are human because he's both. One could say then that he experienced suffering in a divine way. Suffering is a human thing. He doesn't experience suffering. He experienced suffering according to his humanity, but he experiences suffering as God in a divine way, since it was voluntary and he was not mere man, and that he worked miracles in a human way, since they were accomplished through the flesh. For he was not naked God. He accomplished the divine miracles through his flesh. Therefore, his sufferings are wondrous, for they have been renewed by the natural divine power of the one who suffered. So too are his wonders wedded to possibility, for they were completed by the natural passible power, of the flesh of the one who worked them. Knowing this, the teacher said, as for the rest, he did not do divine things after the manner of God, for they were not done only divinely, as if separated from the flesh, for he was not merely beyond being, and neither did he do human things in a human way, for they were not done solely by the flesh, separated from the divinity, for he was not merely a human being. Instead, as God, having become man, he lived his life among us according to a certain new theandric energy. I don't know what to say about Father Stephen DeYoung. I am so utterly confused at how he says things so horribly wrong. Christ has two energies. That does not mean he does divine things over here and human things over there. That's not what's going on. And everything he does is divine and human because he is divine and human. There's no separation here. I'm shocked that people take this man seriously. Shocked, just absolutely shocked. There are a couple other things in this video that I do want to address. So let me find the timestamps. Okay, at 1:36:50.
Yeah. So I mean, I've said enough about him.
He's talking about
Well, you
shooping.
know,
I don't know how much more there is to say.
Yeah.
Here's a question. I call it sola patristica, where, you know, it's just me and my fathers, and
Sola Patristica, I want to address this. This is used by a number of people on Twitter. It's used, now here by Father Ananias. It's this argument that, well, if you find your thing in the saints, that doesn't really matter. Here's the glaring issue. Why is it that none of the things that these people claim, Jesus Christ is only a divine person, only the Father is Autotheos, only the Father is the one God, the flesh of Christ is infinite, Jesus does divine things separately from the human things and does human things separately from divine things, whatever we happen to be talking about. Why is it that none of those statements can be found in the Holy Fathers? And why is it that it's so utterly easy for me to make a video like this the very next morning and just show the citations from the Fathers directly refuting the very things they claim to be true? Sola Patristica, this argument of theirs is just cope. Their positions are not found in the Holy Fathers, and that's why we quote the Holy Fathers to show that what they say is not what the saints say. Not at all. Okay? And this leads me to my next point that I want to bring up. I'm actually brought up in this video, and I want to talk about, I want to articulate the things that they're talking about here.
Hear an argument.
Yeah. Well, what's Hill's deal? Because does he teach PSA? He says he doesn't. But
He'll don't even bother talking about him. He's not relevant to anything.
there you go. All right.
Okay. So what's Hill's deal? He says he doesn't teach PSA. I obviously don't. I wrote an article against it in 2017. You can check my Twitter. It's the accusation that I teach PSA is just ludicrous. But let's focus more on Father Stephen DeYoung's comment. Hill, he's irrelevant. Don't listen to him. It was never about listening to me. That's not important. I don't care if you listen to me. I care that you listen to them. Read the Holy Fathers. Don't pay attention to me. I don't give you my own opinion. My opinions are found in the Fathers. I quote the Holy Fathers. Jesus Christ's flesh is, the reason I know it's not infinite is because they said it's not. The reason I know it's finite is because they said it is. The reason I know the communicatio idiomatum is not an exchange of properties between the natures is because John of Damascus said it's not. The reason I know that Jesus Christ does divine and human things in every act that he does, and not divine things and then separately human things, is because St Maximus denies this. St Dionysios denies this. If you just read the Holy Fathers, if you just read what they say, you would know what we believed. It has nothing to do with personality. It has nothing to do with what Cleve thinks.
All right. Well,
or what Father Stephen DeYoung thinks, or what Soren thinks. I mean, they're all wrong. They're just wrong. And the way we know that they're wrong is they don't repeat what the saints say. They say the exact opposite. They say the verbatim, the exact opposite, because they don't know the material. Again, it's not about me. I don't care if you like me. I don't care if you agree with me. It's about St. Maximus. It's about St. Dionysius. It's about St. John of Damascus. It's about St. Theodore the Studite. It's about what they said. They are the teachers of the faith, not me. And definitely not them. Read the Holy Fathers, please. Father Stephen DeYoung, I am shocked at how people take him seriously. He is just continually wrong. I'm off that soapbox. I'm just to recap. Does Jesus Christ do human things separately from divine things? No. St Dionysios, letter 4 to Gaius, and then Maximus's Ambigua 5, which is written on St Dionysius' letter 4 to Gaius, confirms that in everything he does, he confirms both natures, for he is truly both. We went over this last time. For St. Maximus, Christ is in, from, and is both natures. All three. All three. Continue to have a blessed Lent and a glorious Pascha.